This will be for the con assignment, distance between 2 points. Okay, so they're asking what is the distance between the following points, and here they are on the graph. Okay, recall that the distance formula is the square root of the change in x squared plus the change in y squared. Okay, this triangle, that's just a Greek letter, delta. It just means change in. So we can just go to the graph and count. Okay, starting with the change in x, we'll start right here, and we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. Okay, so we just line it up with the other point. That's going to be 6 units. Okay, so for the change in x, we have 6, and that gets squared, and then we add. Change in y, we have to count. The y-axis is the up-down part, so let's just count. I'll do it in a different color. Okay, for the change in y, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, that one also happened to be 6. All right, you don't have to worry about negative or positive because once you square it, it's the same thing. Okay, so change in y is 6, and that gets squared. So 6 squared is 36. 6 squared is 36. And we still have the square root. 36 plus 36 is 72. Okay, and that's it. It's going to be multiple choice, and Khan Academy does not make you simplify, so it's just going to be the square root of 72. Okay, so if you scroll down to your multiple choices, we're looking for the square root of 72. That's answer C. Okay, so once again, they're asking us what is the length of the line. The length of this line is the same distance from here to here. So we're still just using the distance formula. All right. So first we want the change in x, and x is left, right, so we just count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, line it up with the other point. That's 4 units. You don't have to worry about negative or positive. So change in x is 4, and that gets squared. And now for the change in y, just count. Start here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so y is the up down part. The change in y is just 3, and that gets squared. 4 squared is 16. 3 squared is 9. 16 plus 9 is 25. Okay, and for 25, you can take the square root without getting a decimal. That's just going to be 5. Okay, the ones that you can't take a square root without getting a decimal, you just leave it as a square root. It should be one of the choices. But in this case, our answer is just 5. So go to your choices. Okay, multiple choices, and look for 5. It's answer B. Okay, so in this case, they're asking what is the distance between these 2 points, and there's no graph. They're just giving us the coordinates. Okay, so we're still using the distance formula. Remember that the first number listed is the x coordinate. Okay, it doesn't matter which is x1 and which one is x2. And the second number is the y coordinate. Okay, so I'll do them in different colors. All right, starting with the change in x. Remember, for change in x, we're subtracting. Okay, so it's going to be negative 5 minus negative 3. Okay, so watch your signs. And that gets squared. And for the change in y, again, for the change, you're subtracting. So it's going to be negative 6 minus negative 8. Okay, watch your signs. And that gets squared. Okay, two negatives in a row make it positive. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. And that gets squared. Two negatives in a row make it positive. Negative 6 plus 8 is positive 2, and that gets squared. Okay, negative 2 squared is 4. Positive 2 squared is also 4. And that's just going to be the square root of 8. Okay, if you do that on the calculator, it's a decimal. So just leave it. Okay, and you look for the square root of 8 in your choices. That's answer D. Alright, so let's do one more with the coordinate points. With the coordinates, they want to know what is the distance between these 2 points. Alright, the same formula for distance. So remember, the first numbers are the x's and the second numbers are the y's. Okay? So let's see. Alright, so for the change in x, I'm going to do negative 5 minus negative 9. Okay, and that gets squared. And then for the change in y, I'm going to do negative 5 minus negative 2. Okay, remember that you're subtracting when you do the change in y or the change in x. And that gets squared. Two negatives in a row make it positive. Negative 5 plus 9 is 4, and that's squared. Two negatives in a row make it positive. Negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. And that gets squared. Okay, remember, when you're squaring a negative, it's going to be positive. Okay, so 4 squared is 16. And negative 3 squared is 9. And that's just going to be the square root of 25, which equals 5. Alright, I'll do one more like this because I'm not sure, I may have done the same one twice. Alright, so they want to know the distance between these 2 points. Remember, the x's are the first numbers and the y's are the second numbers. Alright, so we're just using the distance formula. For the x's, change in x, I'm going to subtract 8 minus 4. 8 minus 4, and that gets squared. And then for the y's, I'm going to subtract negative 3 minus negative 7. and that gets squared as well. 8 minus 4 is 4, and that's squared. 2 negatives in a row are positive. Negative 3 plus 7 is 4, and that gets squared. 16 plus 16, that's going to be a radical 32. Okay, and that will be a decimal on the calculator, so we can't go any further. So just look for radical 32 in your choices, and that is answer C.